All right, Brandon, I want to get us on record here. Top four favorite movies of all time. Your Mount Rushmore. Could be any genre. You're a big movies guy, huge movies guy, one of the biggest movie buffs I know. Let's get into it. Let's go no order. They don't have to be any order, but you can put them in order. But I want to hear top four favorite movies.
I love this question. I always wish that like I could be interviewed by Letterboxd. You ever watch those
Oh,
videos?
yes. Yes, yes, yes.
And they're always so surprised, like, oh, I don't know. How can I do this? I just can't come up with four. I am locked and ready.
Yeah.
I have my four. I'm such a big movie nerd. I could tell you like my top 10 in order. I could probably go 20 deep. But if this was a Mount Rushmore, if this was Letterboxd, for your question, top four, Godfather 1, Godfather 2, easy.
Are we taking those as separate movies? Is
Okay,
that one spot or is that two spots?
I'm prepared either way, my friend. I would prefer it to be one, just so I squeeze in another movie, but they are their own entity. So
Uh-huh.
we can separate them into two, but they are the two best movies of all
I
time, in
want
my
to
opinion.
I want to hear more movies listed, so let's take them as one. They get one spot on Mount Rushmore.
Okay, cool. I love that. I love that. Okay, then Tombstone. I'm waiting for a reaction because that's a unique rare one. You're supposed to be like, oh yeah, awesome pick.
I'm nodding and shaking my head, but I'll be
Okay.
honest, I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen Tombstone?
I have not.
Oh, cancel the pod. This can wait. Tombstone has been out for like 33 years. It cannot wait. Tombstone, Val Kilmer, all-time performance, robbed from the Oscars, all-time snub. He is incredible as Doc Holliday. The whole movie is so good and quote-worthy. Pulp Fiction is my other pick. I'm a Tarantino guy, and I think Pulp Fiction is his best one. And out of left field, but I love the movie Arthur with Dudley Moore. It's
Oh
probably my
yeah.
you know Arthur with Dudley Moore?
Yes, I do. I know it mostly because well, my mom is a huge fan of this movie, and we are both huge fans of the music, specifically the Christopher Cross song.
Dude, I love everything you just said. Let's clip that and make that the promo for this podcast, even though it has nothing to do with the Thunder. Agreed all the way around. Your mom is awesome. She has great taste in both movies and soundtracks. Like Christopher Cross song is a banger, even though it is like the antithesis of what a banger sounds like. Um, yeah, I love that movie. I've seen it so many times. It's so funny. If you haven't seen Arthur, it's hilarious.
It's an awesome, that's an awesome four. It's an
Thank
awesome
you.
four. Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm your fill-in host for the day, Ryan Woods. Our guy John Napier is traveling, but with me as always, Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rahbar. Brandon, how are you, man?
Doing well. That was a lot of fun last night. You and I were both there at the Paycom Center. Playoff like atmosphere. The Thunder brought the intensity. The crowd brought the intensity. It was a lot of fun for a Tuesday night in Oklahoma City.
We were sitting in different sections. I was moved by the third quarter crowd. I'll say that. That was really, really high level pop from the Paycom Center. What did you think of that third quarter crowd?
Yeah, it really did feel like, I want to say playoff like atmosphere, but, Oklahoma City goes to a different level in the playoffs. I would say it was like most NBA teams playoff like atmosphere there in that third quarter, but I know that Loud City can go to another level, but very much for like a regular season game in the middle of winter on a
Yeah.
Tuesday night, that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, they brought it, and so did the team. I know that it was a bit downplayed in post-game comments, but it did feel like that was a game that this group really wanted. Wouldn't say needed, but there was some juice with this game.
Oh, 100%. This was not a typical one of 82. zero and zero mentality, all those things. I mean, I know the Thunder, that's in their DNA and they live it and breathe it. But last night, it was definitely a performance and a focus and intensity last night from this Thunder team that said, okay, this team has beat us 3 times, no more. That's not happening tonight. And we got to finally see against the Spurs team, the Thunder team that, we've seen for the past year and a half, just completely dominant. Obviously, the last couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, the performances have been up and down. Some of that's been shooting variant, some of that's been, maybe not bringing the typical sorry, my mic fell. The typical defensive intensity. But last night they put it all together against the Spurs, and it was impressive. Very, very impressive. Shea was impressive. By far the best player on the court. For all the talk about Wimby and Chet, Shea showed why he's the MVP in this matchup. He was unbelievable. But everybody, I thought Jada continues to trend up and look fantastic. I thought Chet, even though his box score may not pop scoring wise, I thought he was really good. I know that Wimby got him a couple of times, but Chet ended up having a couple of really good defensive possessions against him later on, got a block on him, rebounded well. I thought Chet was good. I thought AJ, Caruso, like just the whole team. J Will was so good, so
Jay Will was
impactful.
amazing.
Everybody like up and down the roster. Kenrich Williams. There was an intensity and focus and effort last night that I don't think that we saw in the previous matchups against the Spurs.
Totally agree. And speaking of Shea, after the game, he mentioned, this wasn't our Super Bowl. But we were in that press conference room last night, and Shea got a great question from Tim McMahon. Shea, after the Christmas Day game, said, if a team beats you 3 times in a row or 3 times in such a short period of time, it means they're the better team. And he was asked, what is tonight's game say to us? And um, Brandon, you've been in those rooms a lot, and you've watched Shea field a lot of questions. There was this moment where Shea had to decide how spicy of a quote he wanted to give, and he even kind of, in a way of like a spelling bee contestant asking for the language of origin, like he asked Tim if like, do you mean tonight's game? As if to just buy himself a little extra time. And And he gave a great answer about, if we do the stuff we're supposed to do and we bring a certain level of intensity that we don't think there's anyone that can beat us, that we can hit this level no matter who's in front of us, and which is a great answer. But I just found their disposition both during the game and after the game to be telling of what they think of this matchup, in that they really respect it, and that they find a lot of joy in a game like this. Jada mentioned it a few times, just how much fun a matchup is when the team across from you is going, they're going to bring it possession by possession the whole game, and you're going to have to be very detailed for 48 minutes if you're going to win. And it was just a ton of fun. Like the whole night was really cool to watch that, like those two teams having now played each other 4 times in a month, and there's one more to go. Seeing them start to get more of a feel for each other. And last night the Thunder threw the big punch in the third quarter, but I I just found it really cool. The way the game was played by both teams, I thought both teams were at a high level at certain, like, different times of the game. Both teams peaked and were really doing the stuff they want to do, and controlling pace or controlling rhythm, and really being physical. It was just a high level game between two great teams, and it seems like J-Dub, you can speak to the quote he gave about the rivalry, but or the supposed rivalry, but these two teams are awesome, and it does seem like they're going to be playing high leverage games against each other for a long time.
Yeah, it does. You know, it's funny because rivalries are really born in the playoffs when you get to these playoff battles and, especially between players and fan bases and, the back and forth, especially if it's a long series, especially if you meet a team 2 or 3 years in a row in the playoffs. That's where real rivalries are born. But this is kind of a special case. The NBA wanted to make Chet and Wemby a thing before they even played each other. They'd go back to, when they played each other in high school. And so that was already a thing. Well, and then the Thunder became champs, and Spurs became kind of the up and coming young upstarts that look like they may be the contending challengers for the next several years. So just on paper, and then one team's got the MVP, the other team's got all these like high draft picks that they've got. So it looks like it was going to be a rivalry just on paper, but then you kind of had, some beef and some quotes and some flexing, in the previous matchups. Then you see this team beat the champs 3 times in a row. Then you see the champs, come back and punch them back. So even though these two teams have not even met in the playoffs yet, the Spurs haven't even made the playoffs since the COVID season. A rivalry is born. Like, I mean, there's no denying it. Like, if you watch them on the court, if you listen to these players talk and how they react within the games, I think this is a rivalry. And I think absolutely, the Thunder are going to be obviously contending for the next half decade to decade, and the Spurs should be as well. If everything goes as planned, it looks like it's going to be that way. It's also Oklahoma versus Texas. Wemby will probably be in MVP conversations at some point soon. So you'll have the Shea versus Wemby MVP talks. They're both in the West. There's a previous rivalry between them. I do think this. I think right now it's still Thunder versus Nuggets because the Nuggets are the biggest threat and they've met in the playoffs. And you got the Jokic versus Shea, the past MVPs. But I think the Spurs are next in line, and I think they will soon become the biggest rivalry. And maybe this will become the biggest rivalry in the NBA, like the new latest greatest rivalry in the NBA. But I do think that J Dub nailed it last night. He said, he was asked about whether a rivalry was born or not. And while I do think it has been born, I don't think it really gets to that next level and becomes a big, league wide thing and nationally recognized, internationally recognized rivalry until it's a playoff thing and you have playoff battles. But J-Dub said, you guys control the rivalry thing. I don't really care. Talking about the media. And he's right about that, like how the media hypes it up and things like that. And the NBA has already been hyping up this rivalry. They've been putting all these games on national TV. But he also said, if you had to ask if it's a rivalry, it probably isn't yet. He's like, you didn't have to ask if the Lakers Celtics were a rivalry or the Pistons Bulls were a rivalry. You just knew. So if you had to ask, probably not yet. And I do agree with that. I think, if you ask Thunder fans and Spurs fans, most of them will say it's a rivalry. But I don't think it's like a true rivalry. It's like a rivalry, like a budding rivalry, not full blown yet. Not until we see them battle in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree, and I love that. I love that answer from J-Dub, and he kept kind of deflecting rivalry statements by just saying like it's really fun like they make us a better team and you can feel it in the game. Like you can feel both of these teams sharpening each other as the games go on. And that's really cool. I wanted to ask a few thoughts from the more detail oriented from the game. The Thunder were without Dort last night. That was he was downgraded midday. Foot soreness, I believe, is what it was listed at. But Wiggins gets the start, and I thought Wiggins was fantastic early. Hit a three, was hit J-Dub on a couple different cuts. It was really effective as a passer. I just thought his offense and his shooting ability impacted the game early. And I'm curious what you think Dort's absence meant to the offense, if it could be even contributed or attributed, I'm sorry, to Dort not being there. Dort's been up and down on the offensive end for a while now. And I noticed it, coming out of the out of halftime, the Thunder's offense to start that third quarter was unstoppable. Um, and some of this could be Kaysen kind of falling into some shooting struggles, kind of has dipped a little bit, hit a couple last night, but he's kind of dipped a little bit as a shooter. I'm just curious what you thought the insertion of Wiggins did for the offense, with Dort being out.
Well, I definitely think that Wiggins is considered a bigger offensive threat than Lou Dort, whether it be just the shooting or whether it be the fact that he can create his own shot and kind of handle a bit more and he's a threat to drive to the rim. So I think obviously, you respect his offense more as a opposing defense. And of course that's going to help Shea and Dub and Chet and the other guys on offense with him out there. That said, I'm not going to pile on Lou here because he's obviously been struggling with his shot this season, and I think some of that is he dealt with that right shoulder injury coming into the season, and he's kind of dealt with it throughout the season. Some of it, Lou has been up and down, hot and cold from three over his career. But here's the thing: the Thunder do not win a championship last season without Lou Dort's 3-point shooting. Like his barrage of threes, game 5 versus Denver, the Thunder probably don't win that game nor that series without Lou's 3-point shooting. And the bigger thing here is we have a sample size of a few seasons now with Lou Dort shooting at 40% from three on high volume. So I'm a
Hmm.
big believer that Lou Dort's 3-point shot is going to come around. I'm still a big believer in obviously his defense and what he brings energy wise and all those things to the team and then what he means like to the culture and chemistry of the team. This team loves Lou Dort. The locker room loves Lou Dort. The organization does. So I still think he's an important part of this team moving forward. That said, in the game last night, because of Lou Dort's recent shooting struggles, I don't know if he would have scored more or less than Wiggins, how he would have shot in a 1 game sample size last night, how the Spurs would have defended the Thunder with Lou out there versus not out there, and all those things. I think the Thunder were winning that game regardless. Like they just played so much better last night. And I wouldn't attribute that to Lou being out. I know that's one of the takes out there, and I get it. I get it because he has struggled this season, but I'm a big believer that he'll bounce back as far as his 3-point shooting goes because we've seen it for too long. He's been a 40% shooter for a couple years now.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't mean to make it so much about Wiggins versus Lou, but just I found it interesting just how it just seemed there to be a bit more flow. And we've seen Wiggins start in the last couple weeks where it hasn't looked good.
Yeah.
Where he just wasn't as effective. I just thought he was really, really good last night to start the game and gave the offense some pop. Speaking of giving the offense some pop, Jay Will has been incredible
Yeah.
these last 2 games. Doesn't I think he's had very solid box score numbers, but it is so much more than that. The the rhythm he gives the offense when he's out there, especially at the end of the first quarter, end of the third quarter, when J-Dub and Chet come off the floor and it becomes Shea. It's very Shea centric to close those 2 quarters. And what Jay Will provides to Shea and the entire offense is essential to winning and closing quarters well, something we haven't seen them do very often. And last night was noticeable. Like, wow, what a great run to end the first quarter. Wow, what a huge run to close the third quarter. I don't think it's a coincidence that Jay Will is a part of those moments. And the guys are gonna like J-Dub is gonna speak to like how his energy be just his presence being out there or even just yeah, just not in street clothes on the bench is such a an asset to them, but like it's tangible like basketball things. I think Jay Will gets like almost cast as this like lovable cheerleader vibes guy. And he is those things. He's just a great guy and so encouraging and everybody loves him. But he's also like a serious NBA rotation player and very important for this team and gives this team something that none of the other bigs give all in one package. Like he is a small dose of the iHeart offensive hub at the top of the key, but he also has some of the spot up release valve 3-point shooting that iHeart doesn't have that Chet does. And he also has really good vision and can pass, similar to the way that Chet and iHeart both do. It's I don't want it to get lost how good of an actual basketball player he is and how much of an impact those things have to Shea and all those lineups that they put out uh, after J-Dub and Chet leave the floor.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. I think you're exactly right. I do think that he's kind of been, in a lot of ways cast as just the vibes guy, the smile guy, but he is so much more. He is a really good basketball player. And I think that he was missed in these previous Spurs matchups. And I think
Yeah.
AJ Mitchell was missed in these last couple of matchups. J Will and AJ were both big off the bench last night. I mean, J Will ended up with 11 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists and 2 blocks, by the way. He's added blocks into his repertoire this season. He was asked about, I think you asked him about it. And he talked about how he reshaped his body and got leaner in the off season. And it's helped him with that part of his game. How it's not just taking charges now. He wanted to be a better defender. He was a plus 30 last night,
Yeah.
highest on the team in 23 minutes, and you felt it. Like I think you nailed it. His passing, his ability to shoot from three in space, and if you don't guard him, he can hit those threes. His rebounding has been better this season. I just think that Jay Will is such a luxury for the Thunder to have as a third big, but also has become kind of essential with Hartenstein out right now. With Hart out, like they really need Jay Will, and you can see the difference he makes once he's been back from his injury. He's been really good.
He's in such a sweet spot as like how he's viewed by other teams in that they're probably going to just have to leave him. Um, and I don't think the league is caught up to like if we don't, he's probably going to hit an impactful amount of threes. And so yeah, they when he's the screener or just when Shea is driving, a lot of the attention goes to him. And I just love the release valve spot for Jay Will and how much he's like I remember when we drafted him, like how what our thoughts were of him then and how different of a player he is, especially on offense now than he was then. And credit to him, he did mention last night about uh kind of becoming leaner and just more of an impactful defender as a vertical rim protector, and he's an amazing player and really important for this team, I think, especially like you said with iHeart out. Um, last player I wanted to note. Wait, before we leave Jay, well, he did mention he gave a great quote about uh, he and Kenrich and Caruso. Um, they just like to muck the game up, and I just want to call that out. What a great quote that was.
Yeah, yeah, and
What
he's
a
right. They come
yeah.
in and they do muck the game up. That's a great way to say it. And opposing offenses have to hate it.
I thought he and Kenrich did a phenomenal job on defense in that third quarter last night. They the Spurs didn't play Cornette and Wemby together a lot, but that was when they did. And I thought the two of them, the communication between them, there was so much, problem solving between the two of them uh, in those minutes, and it sparked a lot of the offense, but it really just kept the momentum rolling to close that frame. And both of them are, you know, giving up a ton of size
Hmm.
to those guys. And I just thought they were really good, really sharp, really aggressive, very physical. Kenrich was great. Um, I thought I thought what we saw from Kenrich and Jada guarding up against Wemby was also really important and a good, data point for the Thunder going forward if that's a playoff matchup. I really thought those two played that matchup. That's the best we've seen them in that matchup so far this year.
Yeah, I agree. I like Kenrich is. I love this kind of Kenny Hustle resurgence that we've
Yes, yes,
seen
yes, 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 yes.
this season. Like it's a reminder. A few years back, while the Thunder were going through the rebuild, it was obvious like what an impactful player Kenny Hustle was, like in his role. And as a reminder, there were contenders at the time willing to part with first round picks to get Kenrich Williams on their team. He wanted to be here. The Thunder wanted to keep him. They envisioned a day where he would be an impactful, player in the locker room, chemistry wise, but also on the court. And we are seeing that in spades this season. This has been a really, really fun. It's like a Kenrich, like the Matthew McConaughey Renaissance. What was like the name? How would we do that with Kenny? Kennaissance, the Ken Richessance. I can't do it.
The Kennesaunce might be the closest we can get in the moment, but let's table that. We could we can double back on that. Also, just I know for the listeners, we're in trade season, which means we're in trade machine season, which means you're gonna be needing that $5 million, $6 million, $9 million contract number to maybe match salary. Just keep in mind what we've said about J. Will
Yeah.
and Kenrich when
Yep.
it comes time to maybe put together the deals you're trying to make and for the players that you want. These two guys are so good for this team, and they aren't guys that have to then buy into a role for less minutes, less shots they already have, and they are very valuable to this team. Okay, last player before we get out of here, J-Dub. This has been several games now of serious eyebrow raising return to form. And last night was, I thought, his best game of the season on both ends. He was so good getting downhill, so aggressive, looked so much quicker, so much more decisive. There isn't this, do I shoot it? Do I not? I'm open. Probably should take this, but I might drive. That turns into a more contested 2 point attempt. Like that was process perfection, note perfect from J Dub last night.
Yeah, 20 points on 9 of 15. That's three straight games where he's been really, really efficient. He didn't take a single 3-point shot last night. He's working his way back in a
Really
rhythm
quick, so
off.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Did you feel that last night? The lack of 3 point attempts? Because I did not.
I did not, which is a good thing. He just looked like he was taking what the defense was giving him. I don't think he was necessarily passing up any shots or anything like that. He was just in attack mode. That's three straight games where he is relentlessly attacking the rim. I think that game where Shea and Chet set out against the Grizzlies on the road and he was the number one guy, I think that was the best thing that could have happened. He had to take the reins that game. He got into attack mode. He led the 21-point comeback on the road. And ever since then, he's looked like all-star J-Dub. And, hopefully the shot comes around. He's working with this new normal of adjusting to this lack of range of motion and soreness in his wrist and all those things. But man, the way he's attacking the basket, the way that he's playing defense, the way that he's playmaking, J-Dub has looked awesome the last few games.
He really has. I'm stoked for him because he's working his tail off to get back to where he was. And like he said, try and get back to much better. He's said uh in recent days, like getting back to where I was would be going backwards. Trying to get to a new level for this season. And He's incredible. That was some high level, downhill attacking last night from him. All right. Any other just call outs, funny moments, interesting nuggets from last night against the Spurs?
I think our meeting's about to be time up. So the last thing
Yeah.
I'll say is there is one more meeting between these teams in 3 weeks. It's going to be in San Antonio. Already looking forward to that. But Shay said it last night to Tim McMahon's question. If they play with the attention to detail and focus and intensity that they need to, it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the court. Whether it's the Spurs, whether it's Nuggets, whoever it is, if the Thunder play like they did last night, they'll beat anyone.